Good evening and welcome to Sunset News on this Wednesday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I am Glenora Shipura. In the news tonight, Johannes Hamukwaya, Deputy Director and Project Leader for Small-Scale Fisheries, talks about challenges the industry faces during a workshop hosted by the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources in Swakopmund. They are also looking at developing a resource mobilization strategy to achieve the implementation of the National Plan of Action for Small-Scale Fisheries. Let's take a look.
My name is Johannes Hamukwaya. I'm a Deputy Director for Aquaculture and Inland Fisheries in the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. The objective of the workshop of today, I think we have presented the National Plan of Action. That National Plan of Action on Small-Scale Fisheries, there is a specific activity where we require resources to implement them. What we are doing, we do not want to have a plan which cannot be implemented because of lack of resources, but we do know that there are a lot of development partners, especially in the natural resources, regarding conservation, sustainable use of natural resources, climate change funds, and the climate resilience activities, of which small-scale fisheries is falling within that scope. The meeting of today is for us to strategize as a ministry and other development partners to identify who are the potential development partners who can come on board to fund certain activities for us to be able to implement the National Plan of Action. But for this funding we are looking for, it's not necessarily for small activities, because we have done certain activities at a trial level and we knew they are working. We are looking for funds which we try to scale up certain projects. If, for example, there's an organized small-scale fishery community, how best can we mobilize resources so that that community is assisted? For example, maybe that community used to catch their fish, but you know fish is a short shelf life species, species, so they can catch, but before the fish reach the market, the fish is already rotten. So how maybe as a government and development partner can we come in so that maybe we can provide, for example, a cold facility just for them, just to support them, so that the value of their catches can still reach the market in a good quality. Yes, funding is one of the challenge for us to be able to implement the National Plan of Action, especially at the small scale, at household level. We need those projects which address issues at household level, and to do that we just need to mobilize resources for us to see who can come on board so that we can implement those activities. We have development partners who are supporting community-based conservancies, so we are taking that route. If there are those partners who can also support small-scale fisheries, we can also support with technology. You know, now there is climate change, and that climate change has an impact on the natural resources. At a certain level, people need to adopt, because the catch they used to catch those days is no longer available to them now. What are the alternatives? And if we've identified those alternatives, how can we help these people now to adopt so that they can also look at the alternative for their livelihood? Yes.
On to some good news. The first Namibian women appointed as acting judges of the Supreme Court, Judges Henley Prinsloo and Essie Shimingshays, were sworn in at the Supreme Court recently Chief Justice Peter Shivute administered the oaths of office to the two judges, both are long-serving High Court judges. Let's take a look.
Thank you for accepting my invitation to come and bear witness to this most historic occasion. Today marks the first time in the history of the Supreme Court, indeed of our judiciary, that two women Namibian judges will be sworn in as acting judges of the Supreme Court. His Excellency the President, as you are aware, has, on the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission, appointed the Honorable Lady Justice Anneli Presluo and the Honorable Lady Justice S.E. Malaka Chase as acting judges of the Supreme Court for the period 1st April 2023 to 31st March 2024. Lady Justice Preslow and Lady Justice Chase, I congratulate you on your appointments and wish you all the success at the Supreme Court. Allow me, first of all now, first before you allow me, let me thank you and let me also apologize for the delay. We were supposed to start it at 9 o'clock.
Workers at Namdok in Walvis Bay on Wednesday morning held a gathering outside the Namdok premises and demanded an audience with the company CEO, Albertus Carico. Led by the Namibia Public Workers Union, the group wished to express their dissatisfaction on a range of burning matters, such as salary discrepancies, discrimination, and a lack of communication. The workers accused the company of negligence and refusing to listen to their needs. They were reportedly told Carico is in Angola.
That's all we are asking for, isn't it so?
Yes, okay.
So I think that's what is important. Until such a time they come back to us, and if they want, then maybe they are purchasing tickets to us to go to Angola also. It's also good. Then we can fly on.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just all about zero. Yeah. So we also want to be in the place. Also, yeah. So let's wait until they tell us what is the next move.
Getting into our next story, a new board for the Meat Board of Namibia has been appointed for the first time under the two legislation of the Meat Industry Act and the Public Enterprise Governance Act. This follows after the outgoing board has served 2 terms, a period of 6 years after their term of 3 years expired in April 2020 already, but was then extended again. Agriculture Minister Carl Schleitwein said at the inauguration of the new board that the appointment of the board had to follow the 2 pieces of legislation under which this board is constituted, which are the Public Enterprise Governance Act and the Meat Industry Act. In these, the provisions are pretty clear how the board is constituted and what the terms are. He said that the outgoing board completed a de facto 2-term period. We extended the board's terms because of COVID, because it was difficult to get people together. It is now the first time that we appoint a new board in combination with these 2 legislations, where we try to ensure that the necessary representative nature of the board was put in the existing Meat Board Act is maintained, and that the new provisions of the Public Enterprise Governance Act are also adhered to. Schleitwein said that the new board is therefore mandated by these 2 pieces of legislation, and it therefore brings about new responsibilities to the board. This is with regards to the governance issues, he said. Schleitwein added that there will be a difference between the outgoing board and the new board. We are in the process of approaching Parliament with an amendment of the Act which will broaden the new board's functions. We have included more meat products that are now subject to the Meat Industry Act, such as poultry. In our Story of the Day segment, Rundu Rural Constituency Councillor Paulus Mbangu has called upon the government to take the plight of unemployed citizens. After the break, we expand on this story.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Rundu Rural Constituency Councillor Paulus Mbangu has called upon the government to take the plight of unemployed citizens seriously, saying that more funds should be directed to the Youth Ministry. He made the remarks last week during the public hearing on youth unemployment in Rundu. The hearing was led by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Human Resources and Community Development, which derived from a motion tabled by the Popular Democratic Movement's Member of Parliament, Ina Hengari.
Have been pro-youth. Now, when you go through that budget, how much money was allocated to the youth credit scheme? 2 million. How many youth we have in this country? And then you allocate only 2 million for the youth credit scheme. What does that tell you? Last year, the Ministry of Youth entered into agreement with DBN. They had an 8 million loan facilities to fund apparently 27 rural development projects countrywide. So that's enough. That's not enough. As a country, we have never been serious in addressing the plight of the youth. We have never been serious. The Chinese say that the best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago, but the second time is now. Perhaps we must change. Going forward, the budget for the youth should never be below 1 billion. Going forward. Because otherwise, if you are giving them 300, 400, the entire ministry, or just paying lip service to the youth issue. Then the other problem that we have is that there are no industrialization in Namibia. We are unable to manufacture anything. Now, where do we think will they get employment? No industrialization in the country. If you are even ordering even tomato from Africa, even this little stuff we are ordering outside the country, where can they get employment? The government can be able to accommodate all these youth. Those are the other contributing factors. The other contributing factors is that powers had been decentralized in Windhoek, as if Windhoek is a panacea of knowledge. We have regional council here without a budget, because what we are given is just peanut. The our regional council last year, the budget that we received is just peanut. We will not even execute all our plans. We're not even quite sure how much will be given.
In our community talk segment, as part of its Rural Schools Project, telecommunications giant MTC handed over 4 newly constructed classrooms. We get into this story after the break.
To another exciting episode of Oneuptwo. Hier is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis julle moontlik gaan byt.
As part of its Rural Schools Project, telecommunications giant MTC handed over 4 newly constructed classrooms and 1 storeroom to the Huandrai Primary School situated on a farm southwest of Rehoboth. Deputy Minister of Education Faustina Calais inaugurated the new infrastructure.
Where in our education system we will have learners in our schools that are serious with their education, who are learning, and teachers in our schools that are serious with their work, who are teaching. I want to see a situation where we have principals in our schools that are always provide quality leadership. I want to see parents that are supporting the education of their children. I want to see an enhanced and integrated public-private partnership where our partners are moving along with us, mitigating the challenges we face in our education system. Let me use this opportunity to call for a renewed spirit, a new spirit of patriotism, as MTC show us, a new spirit of hard work, a new spirit of understanding that the challenges we face as a nation can hurt us all unless we stand together and work together in harmony. Let me thank MTC Namibia for this generous and very important donation. Today, you have planted a seed, and the products from this seed will be productive citizens of our beloved country, Namibia. I implore on all of us, as recipients of this noble gesture, to take care of this building, of this infrastructure, and ensure that it is well maintained to ensure its durability. I now have the single honor and privilege not to receive these classrooms officially, which will be inaugurated today. I receive it on behalf of the community of Groendraai Primary School.
In economic news after the break, global trade showing signs of slowing down. To stay with us.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes. Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Getting into our economic news, signals of global trade still show signs of activity slowing down. According to Samini Storm, following global trends, trade activity in Namibia slowed in April 2023. The outlook on trade looks bleak in the very short term, and Namibia will not be shielded by lower global demand, production, and consumer spending. Let's take a look at our financial indicators. The Namibia dollar trades against the British pound at 23.91, against the euro at 20.56, $2 Namibian and 69 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. Zinc went up 2.31%. Brent crude oil also went up 1.54%, trading at $77.40 per barrel. In the international slot, ex-U.S. Vice President Mike Pence launches 2024 election bid challenging Trump. Do stay tuned for this story after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Former Vice President Mike Pence, who served Donald Trump with unwavering loyalty but later turned on him after the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, formally challenged his former boss for the Republican presidential nomination on Wednesday.
The land of opportunity, beacon of democracy, the shining city on the hill, land of the free, home of the brave, the United States of America. As a son of the heartland, grandson of an Irish immigrant, those aren't just words. My family has lived the American dream. I had the great honor to serve in Congress, as governor, and as your vice president. And I'll always be proud of the progress we made together for a stronger, more prosperous America. But today, our country's in a lot of trouble. President Joe Biden and the radical left have weakened America at home and abroad. The American dream is being crushed under runaway inflation. Wages are dropping. Recession is looming. Our southern border is under siege, and the enemies of freedom are on the march around the world. And worse still, timeless American values are under assault as never before. We're better than this. We can turn this country around, but different times call for different leadership. Today, our party and our country need a leader that'll appeal, as Lincoln said, to the better angels of our nature. I have long believed to whom much is given, much will be required. My family and I have been blessed beyond measure with opportunities to serve this nation, and it'd be easy to stay on the sidelines. But that's not how I was raised. That's why today, before God and my family, I'm announcing I'm running for President of the United States. We can bring this country back. We can defend our nation and secure our border. We can revive our economy and put our nation back on a path to a balanced budget, defend our liberties, and give America a new beginning for life. President Reagan described us as a shining city on the hill. And above all, he called on Americans to renew optimism and believe in themselves again, to believe in each other. Every time our nation has produced leadership that has called upon this country to do hard things, the American people have always risen to the challenge. And we will again. We just need government as good as our people to do it. I believe in the American people, and I have faith. God is not done with America yet. And together, we can bring this country back. And the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Let's take a look at our weather predictions. Katima Mulilo can expect a minimum of 14 degrees. We seem to be having some technical difficulties. We'll head on over to the weather predictions. Moving on, Enana is expecting a minimum of 13 degrees with a maximum of 32 degrees. Handys Bay can expect a minimum of 12 degrees and a maximum of 18 degrees, while Walvis Bay can expect a minimum of 13 degrees with a maximum of 21 degrees. We'll now head over to the sports desk, proudly brought to you by Sports Rep.
Good evening and welcome to Sunset News, brought to you by Sports Rep. My name is Limba Mubetami. Now, a big derby is coming up this weekend in Windhoek, and that, of course, is Trasco United versus FNB Wanderers. Now, of course, if you're a rugby fan, don't miss that game. Now, also, Namibia's professional woman footballer, Senata Coleman, scored a brilliant penalty for her side for Panachi of Turkey. That, of course, is Senata also just celebrating Peter Shalulile style. Well, of course, this and more in today's Sunset Sports News.
This is Sunset News. Let's get into the news highlights from today's broadcast. The first Namibian women appointed as acting judges of the Supreme Court, Judges Henley Prinsloo and Essie Chimingchase, were sworn in at the Supreme Court recently. As part of its Rural Schools project, telecommunications giant MTC handed over 4 newly constructed classrooms and 1 storeroom to the Huandrai Primary School situated on a farm southwest of Rehoboth. Fireworks are expected this weekend in the Women's Rugby League when the derby match between FNB Wanderers and Trustco United women's team kicks off at the Wanderers Rugby Field on Saturday. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneuptwo.com. I am Glenora Shipura, and this has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.